Welcome to Morgan Mead's Video Village, where filmmakers share their most compelling stories, insights, and professional journeys. This week we're talking to Shane Stover, who's a prop designer in Los Angeles. He's worked on many movies from Batman to Marvel movies to Interstellar. Our conversation ranges from modern technology and traditional art to our differing opinions on artificial intelligence and our favorite movie creatures from the past. Without further ado, this is Shane Stover. Shane, let's give everybody a little bit of a background on yourself. This podcast covers a lot of different professions within the film and entertainment industry, and yours is a bit unique.
Yeah, well, what do I do? I guess I'm an artist and designer, and I make costumes for movies and for TV, costumes and props. So I've kind of ended up, as it is now, doing a whole bunch of different stuff, artistically wise. So I kind of started off as an illustrator, totally hand drawing and painting. That was my thing. And so I would do illustrations and design certain things and paint as well. And then I got into the computer side of it and started doing 3D modeling, 3D sculpting. So now I do a lot of 3D printing, mostly hard goods for costumes. Helmets are my jam. Any sort of armor things, any sort of hard bits that can go along with that. So I do anywhere from designing the looks of things in Photoshop all the way up to 3D printing, painting those physical objects, assembling them, and all that sort of stuff. So it's a bit of stuff. Yeah.
So you started out, you grew up in San Luis Obispo,
Yep.
and your father was some sort of an artist, right? A photographer? Do I remember that correctly?
He was yeah, that's right. He was a photographer. Yep.
You grew up with like kind of artistry around you that must have rubbed off on you somehow, right? Because I would definitely solidly put you in the category of somebody who had talent as a very small child. This is, obviously you've been honing your skill for years and years and years, but you started out with probably more skill than most people end up achieving in their lifetime. So you had some sort of a head start with your artistry. How did that all happen
I
to you?
think I think it all definitely starts with my dad, dad and mom. My dad was a photographer. Um, he kind of had his home studio at our house. He would do advertising art. He would do weddings. He would do family portraits. Anything you can do as a photographer. And so he kind of had his studio at our house. People come over, do family portraits, and so it was kind of around. And he had his own fine art photography that he did. And he would do shows as well. And so I do shows here and there now as well. And so I just kind of took it just from him. And he would paint, but we had plenty of art all around, and he definitely encouraged me to draw and to paint. And I would make monster masks with him and my mom in our backyard. So I definitely grew up around it. And I think you hear a lot of artists. You hear stories of how their parents discouraged them from doing that. It's not a very practical thing. It's not this and that. Uh, it's definitely not the easiest way to make a living. Um, but there definitely wasn't any of that from my parents at all. They totally encouraged. That was pretty much the only job I've ever had is painting, making pictures, making art, and that's it. I never really had any other sort of job.
So when you were that young, when you were drawing, probably, right?
Yeah,
You were mostly
yeah,
sketching when you were a little kid. I'm wondering, like, did you envision that you would grow up to be some sort of an artist or a painter, or did you have any other aspirations?
Um, that was all I've wanted to be. Yeah, is an artist of some kind, and I wanted to play baseball. So I played baseball all through for as long as I could. I played through college. So that was the goal, was to play, be center fielder for the Dodgers, and then in the off season paint. But um, when I was really young, I wanted to be a makeup artist. So kind of special effects, makeup, prosthetics. Loved like all the old monster movies, Rick Baker and American Werewolf, and the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I got into those like super young, and my dad, again, just super encouraged all that stuff. We would go to Universal Studios all the time.
Do you think that's what got you into the career path that you're in right now, making the costumes and props and armor pieces? Like, was it like, do you remember any kind of aha moment where it was like, you're watching a movie and you're like, oh my god, that's what I want to do right there?
I remember there's a really cool. It's not it wasn't as readily available as it is now. The information on that, the making of movies, and there's a really cool making of Nightmare on Elm Street that I saw when I was really young, and it had them putting all the prosthetics on Robert England and all these really cool practical effects that are like just as cool now if you see them as they were then, and um, and it's just little things like that one, and a couple more that I was like, damn, this is the coolest thing, to be able to create something from nothing. And so I, I absolutely wanted to do that for a long time, ever since I can really remember. And then I did a lot of drawings and paintings, kind of my own fine art, sports paintings, drawings and paintings. And I would sell those. And
You've got the movie monsters, like the classic, Frankenstein and Creature from the Black Lagoon, that kind of thing. And then you've got baseball and sports and portraits and that kind of commission work. Um, how did you decide which one to actually like go for?
yeah, yeah. I mean, so I kind of have my personal art, which is right now it's more creature and what are, sci-fi kind of a surreal sort of stuff, and then I have my the the costumes and the props that's kind of my day-to-day job. And um, I kind of moved to LA, and I started building architectural models with always the kind of goal is to get into to film sort of stuff. And um, it just kind of rolled into that to where I kind of started doing exactly what I've always wanted to do, is the film costumes and props and that sort of thing. Um, and then with my personal art, I was doing the sports stuff for a long time. Long time. It was cool. It was going well, and super realistic photoreal paintings and drawings. And at a certain point, I just kind of got to where I wanted to my personal work to be more personal. Really, I had played sports for so long, and I hadn't played in quite a while, and I still love sports, but I wanted to really express myself as an artist, where I feel like I wasn't quite doing that with the sports stuff, especially where I was at a certain point in my life. And so, yeah, now if you see my stuff, it has a lot to do with, well, technology, a lot to do with now the AI sort of stuff, and how I kind of developed from a totally traditional artist into more digital artist. And because yeah, I started off all totally traditional, didn't want to do any digital at all. I was like, I definitely poo-pooed that. I was like, nah, digital, it's lame. And I've also, through my dad, I've kind of learned to accept that and to more so embrace it, because my dad was totally analog photography, he could do anything he wanted with an analog camera. He knew all the different settings, everything about it. He could yeah, just incredible stuff. But then once it got to digital cameras took over. He doesn't know how to turn on a computer. He could not figure it out. He just kind of refused, and at that point he retired. And which was amazing to me because he could do all the analog photography stuff, which to me, looking at it now, is much more complicated than any sort of digital thing. But I always kind of had that in the back of my mind, and I still do. That technology comes and things change, so try to keep up with it and try to embrace it and see what you can do with it.
Do you? So we
Yeah.
we were born the same year. We were both born in '81, which was like the best year ever to be born, I think, because we grew up in like this analog world, and we made that switch from analog to digital with the world as we were growing up, which was like the coolest thing ever. And now
Hmm.
here we are, in the time when digital is transferring over to AI, and it's like we've been through so much, we've seen it all, and it's the first computers were so hard to use and they broke all the time and there was not enough space or processing power for anything, and like
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. I agree.
one of the images that your camera can take right now would like fill up the hard drive of my first computer. But
Yeah.
do you remember seeing Jurassic Park in the theaters? Because to me, like that's the movie that did it for me. I saw that in the theaters and I was like, I want to be a filmmaker. Like there's hands down, that's what I want to do, because it blew my mind. And still to this day, those effects hold up. And like just the
Yeah.
achievement that they had with not just the props and the animatronics, but with the digital dinosaurs and stuff like then, it's like I don't think a lot of people these days understand how crazy that was that they were able to achieve that.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, like did it hit you the way it hit me? Like when you saw that, did it?
It absolutely did. It absolutely did. And but in a different way. In a different way, because at that point, um, again, like I said, I loved practical makeups and like puppets and all that sort of stuff. And then I saw Jurassic Park, and I was like, "Whoa! Like this is all digital, and this is where it's going." And at that point, it kind of yeah, discouraged me, and I was like, "No, this is I don't know if yeah, I don't know if I want to do this now." So in a different way, I kind of yeah, all the movies that came before that, where it's pretty much completely practical, are the ones that really inspired me, and I saw that, and I'm like, nah, I don't want to be on like a computer all day, and I still don't. I guess, and a lot of times nowadays, I am on a computer all day, but I'm still almost always making something that is going to be physical in the end, um, you know. Um, and again, I've just gotten used to it or dealt with it, but uh, I do very specifically remember Jurassic Park. I think it changed a lot for everyone. Uh, yeah, it's a crazy, crazy movie. It I mean, you see that stuff now in movies, and it's like, yeah, okay, digital, this and that. Or I think if you would have seen some of the movies that are being made now back then, you would have crapped your pants big time. It's like, would that even be close to possible?
I remember having that same kind of feeling. It must have been what was it, like 1997? I want to say that Episode One, Star Wars Episode One, came out 97 or
Uh huh.
98, something like that. Um,
Yeah.
but when I saw that movie and how like literally everything was green screened and digital, like um, when I saw that, I was like, okay, that's where everything is going, and that's the moment for me that I thought practical effects were dead. And I had
Sure.
that same kind
Yeah.
of discouraging feeling that you had when we were younger. There was there was a couple shows on TV. Like one was called Movie Magic.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the one I remember the most. But there was another one too. I can't remember what it was, but that movie magic show, man, I would watch every episode I could find, and
Me too. That
you
was
had to
awesome.
wait for it to come on the TV. You couldn't just pick it like you can nowadays. But yeah, dude, that show is so cool, and like honestly, I think that's what got me into prop making was movie magic. Just seeing all the behind the scenes stuff of like Willow and all these old industrial light and magic stuff that they used to do with practical effects.
Yeah, I mean, no, just like you said, growing up when we did it, it's pretty cool, and it's interesting to see how things have progressed or degressed or however you want to call it. And that's kind of again like a lot of what my personal art now kind of is about. I think it's been cool just to see it transition. We'll see what happens next.
Yeah. So we follow each other on Instagram and everything, and I see every year I get green with envy around Halloween time because your costumes are always like like there's no words to describe it, man. It's like you can't even call them amazing. It's like elevated beyond that somehow. It's like for anyone else, it looks like you just absolutely have like an unlimited budget for Halloween costumes. But
Well,
I know like you're spending hours and hours and hours out in your studio making those things. Tell me about those. Like, why do you spend so much time on a Halloween
I
costume?
know. Well, yeah, I ask myself that question, um, especially towards the end when I'm like totally fried. I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Um, but well, it's for the kids, but it's kind of for me too. Um, it's my son gets really into it, and so I've kind of done 1 or 2 years now, and so now he's all about it, and so we got to go full bore on it. Um, so that's reason number one. Reason number two, I feel like it gives me a chance to try something new or to learn new skills that I haven't developed or try to improve on things that I've done before and that haven't quite gotten there yet. So I'm still working on my sewing. I'm terrible at sewing, so I keep trying to slowly inch my way into that. Um, and I try, if I can, to make it a bit of an art piece in the end. So after our costumes are done, I'll make a display out of them or make a statue out of them, and and then I can take them around and they can hopefully sort of be an art piece that I can sell later on or just keep around. So that's worked out too. Mostly it's just fun. That's kind of why we're doing this is it's fun.
Yeah, man. So speaking of fun, you've worked on just a shit ton of cool movies, like really really cool movies. Bunch of Marvel movies, Batman movies, all kinds of commercials, and there's been other projects along the way too. It's not just movies and TV and commercials, but um, as far as those go, do you have like a favorite project or a favorite prop or something like that you've worked on?
Um, I probably yeah. I think I would say Interstellar that we both worked on together, and mostly, well, for a couple reasons, it was just incredibly hard, incredibly hard. I think one of the first helmets that I had done, and to have the airflow going in and just learning everything is, um, you know, I'll never kind of forget the feeling that I had trying to figure this stuff out, and it got the most screen time for sure. It's like sometimes I can make something super cool, and spend months and months on it, and it'll come on screen and it'll be there for a couple seconds, and then it'll be all right, cool, and then it just disappears. Um, and, um, but there's a few, again, a lot of the helmet stuff. I every time the Marvel characters are cool. Every time Winter Soldier comes up, I have a soft spot in my heart because we made his mask and goggles, and all the helmets though. The we did one. I did one for Dune recently, and then one for Alien Romulus. Um, so all really cool. But again, like those kind of show up for a couple seconds and then they're gone. The Interstellar is really kind of an iconic one. I think that is in the movie a lot. It's on the movie poster and all that. So if I had to pick one, it'd probably be that. There's been a bunch of other small, goofy ones for commercials too that have been like, oh, that's pretty cool. It's just a small, goofy thing. We did doing Buster's Hand for Arrested Development. It's just a small thing, but it's like, that's pretty fun.
So I'm actually a little surprised to hear you say Interstellar because you've kept it going. Like that was I worked on a couple things after that prop wise, but that's for sure my favorite project that I've ever worked on.
Hmm.
Just working on the helmet for so long. Like we were on that movie for like what 5 months or something. It was like a month or two of 3D modeling, and then once everything was printed, there's like 2 months worth of sanding and painting, and it's just like it just went on and on and on. It was like, but aside from that, it was like honestly one of the best movies I've ever seen. Just
Yeah,
to be a part of something that was so freaking good. It was the coolest thing, and like I'll never forget it. But you've worked on so many things since then. I thought that would have been just like kind of a stepping stone along the way.
no, it
you
was.
know,
I mean, I think it just had its 10-year anniversary, so that was, I mean, a long time ago. Uh, yeah, there's just, I mean, Bane was cool too, but then again, that's over 10 years old. And then there's a really cool Tom Hanks movie called Finch that came out, I think, just a couple years ago. That one I went to set on. I didn't go to set on Interstellar, and so that one was pretty cool too. And that had a little bit of a decent amount of screen time as well. I mean, there's a bunch, for different reasons. I just remember how hard Interstellar was, and I kind of always think if I can survive that one, then I can survive anything.
there was so many reasons it was really, really hard. First of all, for me, the hardest thing was back then. There was no we didn't have access to any kind of parametric modeling or anything like that. Everything was like it had to be 3D modeled in, you were using Modo, I was using Maya, and everything was like quads. It had to be perfect. We had to really pay attention to edge flow. And then there was things like these score lines, these detents that went all the way around, and they had to be like these perfect arcs and these sharp
Mhm.
corners, and they had to be exactly '08 deep, and all
Yeah,
this stuff. And it was like to sit there and manage all these quads on a 3D model and then do that and then redo it 17 different times when they change their mind, how they want it. It was insane. It was absolutely insane. And these days it's probably a little easier to do. There's other ways to do it, but you and I, like, we were developing that process
hmm,
while we were in the trenches trying to get it done under a deadline. It was
yeah.
insane.
And at that point too, I didn't do much kind of hard surface mechanical sort of modeling. I really wasn't comfortable mechanical sort of stuff. I started off totally organic and doing sculptures of people and creatures and things like that in ZBrush. I totally started off in ZBrush, and so that was definitely a learning curve for me. And now I do a ton of that sort of stuff. But again, like at that point, um, yeah, I learned so much just about how and that we use now. It's how we make the lenses, how just a ton of different things for the production side of it, not just the look of it, but how it fits on the actors, how it gets on and off the actors, so that they can do a 12-hour day in these crazy suits. How a lot of times now lenses come out so that you can shoot with them easier, so that they can avoid the reflections, and they'll just do the lenses in CG. Um, but in that particular one, they shot it, I think, almost all 100% practical. The lenses, we made them that they could come out, but I don't think they CG'd much at all, if any, in that particular show. They even attempt to do it now. It'd all be a CG lens. So getting airflow in there and getting lenses that are not going to fog up all the time, that's one of the biggest, hugest things, is lenses fogging up when we're doing helmets like that.
You've done, God, I don't know how many helmets after that. You've done motorcycle helmets and space helmets and
Mm-hmm.
battle helmets and all kinds of. So I imagine that you've had time to perfect the art and perfect the.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Each one kind of comes. You learn from the last one, and you try to improve it. So now, we got a different a decent system of creating lenses that don't fog up. So there's different coatings you can put on lenses, and then you always need some airflow going in there. And so most of the time, at least for those particular helmets, have a backpack sort of system with a fan or a couple fans, or fans that are inside the helmet for additional air. And then you have to worry about two microphone and sound. So sometimes we have a couple different fans that you can turn off when they're doing dialogue, and put back on when they're not doing dialogue, to get more airflow going in there. Lots of little tricks. Again, a good chunk of the time now, lenses are taken out. It's just easier on the actor. It's easier on lighting, mostly. And at that point, you don't need a fan going on in there if it's an open kind of helmet. Um, yeah, every time different materials improve so that they're stronger. You get less things breaking, which obviously you don't want things breaking on set. Depending on what they're doing, it's just going to happen. All those things. So yeah, you learn every time, and it's never quite perfect. And you keep going. That's what makes it fun.
Have you ever had any like super disappointing projects? And I say this because one sticks out in my head. The God, I spent 4 months modeling the helicarrier for
Yeah,
Captain America: Winter Soldier,
yeah, yeah.
and you were on a couple different things on that. You were on the punchy hands and the star, and like you were doing all kinds of other
Right.
work on that. I
Mm-hmm.
was working on the helicarrier. I spent literally 4 months modeling this thing, and when I
Mm-hmm.
watched the movie,
Yeah.
I didn't even see it. And it turns out like it was it was 50 feet in the background, out of focus. It was like this little tiny blur, and it only shows up for like 2 seconds. And I was like, seriously? Like 4 months of work for that?
Yeah. Yeah. To
So I
be
mean, it
fair,
was a really cool project, but it was really disappointing to see it in the movie
I
like
know.
that. But apparently, it lives on in Marvel Studios, like the actual physical building. So
Yeah, I've had a couple of those. We spent, gosh, I don't know how many months, but a few months doing these really cool spacesuits. There's a movie called Distant, and it was over COVID. A couple people went out and shot it in Hungary, and the thing never came out. But as
oh,
and that's when I say the Interstellar helmets had good screen time, but this thing, the whole entire movie was these characters in these spacesuits, and they looked awesome. They looked so good, and that was one where we've learned from these different projects, and and put it all in there. And I think it was a tough shoot. I wasn't on set for it, but uh, thing never came out. I think it eventually is out now in like Vietnam or something, but it still hasn't come out in the States. So I still haven't seen it. I've seen a couple. There's like a couple really small clips if you look online and really search for it.
Any idea why it didn't come out?
No, I'm not real sure. I don't know why they wouldn't just put it on Netflix or something like that. It had like two or three release dates, and it never really had like a trailer in the U.S. on but it was supposed to come out. Maybe I've never seen it. Maybe it's not any good. Maybe it's not even worth showing. But the suits look super cool. That's not even me being biased. From what I've seen, they look.
A couple of years ago, they started canceling movies and writing them off. I wonder if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
remember Batgirl kind of
yeah.
was famous for that. Like they shot the whole thing and then canned it and wrote it off. I wonder if it was that situation.
Yeah, certainly could have been. It
So another thing that people don't realize about prop making or costume making is that sometimes you'll work for like a solid 7 or 8 days on something, and then you'll get some feedback, and the feedback may seem benign from like a production designer or director or something, but to the person sitting in the chair, it means literally going back to day one and starting over and kind of modeling over what you've already had. And I remember several projects where I had to start over 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 times, and just start over.
yeah.
Because like once you start adding enough, like they want to see it with detail, right? Because they don't have that imagination to follow you through. So they want to see it as complete as possible, but you always run that risk of like if you get it closer to completion, that means you have to start over because all those details are there.
Hmm.
Have, do you still run into that problem a lot, or
I guess it seems a little less now than what it might have been a while ago because we kind of just have certain steps that we follow, and or try to just be clear with what we're showing the client at certain points. But it absolutely happens, and I've just done it so many times that you just say, okay. And your first instinct is to be like, oh my god, you blew up my whole project. Um, but you, yeah, you just take it. It's part of the job. It seems like yeah, commercials a lot of times can be frustrating with that. I think because they're kind of going so quick, and there's in a commercial there's usually it seems like at least there's more cooks in the kitchen to where you have to you're doing something for a production designer and then but he's got to get it signed off by a director and then they got to get it signed off by the agency and the agency has to get it signed off by the ultimate client which is kind of the person or the company whose commercial it actually is. That could be a little frustrating because then it can kind of you can think you're at a certain point with one person but it hasn't gone to the other end of the chain yet, and then when it finally gets to that chain it gets all the way back to the beginning again.
you are among the best in the industry for sure when it comes to designing and modeling and just building these props.
Oh,
And I
thanks.
want to make it absolutely clear to anyone who's listening that this is not just like some dude with natural talent that can sit down for 5 hours and just knock out this project, right? Like I sat next to you throughout a lot of projects over a few years, and I'm here to tell you, you would be one of the first to show up, one of the last to leave, and you'd come in on weekends. You were pulling 12 to 14-hour days like constantly. And I'm sure you were dreaming about this stuff too, just knowing you are the way
Oh,
you are.
yeah.
Um, but but it's like they say about Michael Jordan. It's like you got this great blend of like all this natural talent, but you also have all these just hundreds and hundreds of hours that you put in to these projects. And it's a lot of practice, and it's a lot of time in the seat. And it really shows, and I just want to make it clear to anyone who's listening that it's like, he makes it look easy, but it ain't easy. you know
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I make it look easy. I mean, when we were working together, you probably saw me get pissed off a few times. That's what makes this fun too, is that it's never easy. It's always something new, and you learn from your past projects and try and make everything better. But it's never easy, I don't think. And I care about making stuff good. You know, um, that's my worst fear, is having it be on screen or whatever on set and it just not work, or it looks like junk. I think we've seen movies, and especially, well, probably me and you look at a certain costume, or you look at a certain part of a movie, and you're like, that looks like garbage. And I don't want that to be something that I've made. So I try and put everything I can into it, and if it looks like garbage, then I tried my best.
Yeah, I don't think you could make garbage if you tried.
I could if that was what I was supposed to be doing.
If that was the project, we would get concepts given to us from a concept designer, and
Mhm.
it would usually include, a three-quarter view from the front and a three-quarter view from the back, and if we were lucky, there was another view somewhere in there. And although it looked pretty good, on a sheet, when you go to 3D model it, things don't necessarily line up. Like maybe something on the side of the head looks really big from the front angle, but from the back it looks really tiny, or it's off place or something. And you got to reconcile that while you're 3D modeling. And I imagine that it helps a lot that you tackle this from the perspective of a designer yourself. Like for me, I'm not a designer. I can 3D model anything you throw at me, but I can't I cannot design off the top of my head. Like there's some sort of disconnect from the imagination. Yeah, I've got a great imagination, but it doesn't go to the paper for some reason. So that's got to help you out, right? Like that's just kind of filling in those blanks.
And so, yeah, certain projects I'll kind of take it all the way from the very beginnings of the design all the way to finish. Sometimes we'll get something that's pretty fleshed out. Sometimes we'll get a 3D model, and then it's up to me to make that into reality, and kind of anything in between. Sometimes we can get a rough 3D model. Sometimes we just get a 2D drawing. I like to design as much as I can. So if they give me something, if I can do it from start to finish, that's my total favorite. If they give me a little leeway to change things here and there, to make it something nice in the end, then that's great too. And most costume designers or production designers are they get the process, I think.
See, that situation would always make me sweat. Like they would hand us a design. You could always tell, like they would fudge the details a little bit. They'd put like little shapes with some shading and stuff, and it looks really cool in a concept image. But when you're going to 3D model, you're like, oh god, what the hell is that shape? Does that have like beveled corners on it? Are those, is that a grip right there? Like, is that a button? And it would literally just make me sweat. I would get so nervous. I'm like, fuck, I want to do this the way they want it, but
Right.
I would model something, and then I remember I'd always be like, "Hey Shane, does this look good to you?" And you're like, maybe try this." But it's like you were so in tune with all the details, and you could do something like far better than what was fudged in those lines.
Yeah, I try to understand what what the intent of the design is. What are they going for? Is it a tough, cool character? Is it yeah? Is he tough? Is he supposed to be mean? Maybe that's sharper lines. Is it a soft, cutesy character? Maybe it's curvy. Yeah, I think I just try and understand what they're going for, and if I've worked with a costume designer before, I can kind of get what they like and try and repeat that. And at some point, you show them, and they probably don't like it, and then you try again. Uh, um, yeah, so I totally get you. There's certain designs we get from certain big companies, and you gotta like nail it. It's got to be nailed, and sometimes it doesn't line up. And sure, that's a little frustrating. But again, we that's when you send your model off to them, you let them check it out, and they'll do a draw over or something like that, and then you just keep going. It's just all it's part of the process, and you learn to deal with it and not just don't take it too personally, because it's not what it's all about. This isn't it's not your artwork. This isn't you. This is something else, and it's hard not to separate those sometimes, but you just got to take it that way. Yeah.
At the same time that you're trying to reconcile all these little artistic details and stuff, you're also fighting with technology, where intersection of quads meet, or sometimes in ZBrush, you don't have the resolution of the quads, or things bunch up in the wrong spot and you're just like, ah, it's there's
Yeah.
all kinds of challenges that you face. And like you said, every project is different and they all have their own unique challenges, which is actually for me the fun part.
Yeah, and the technology bits, if you're modeling something, I think I've just kind of learned little tricks. If something's not working for me, then how to get around them, or if I need to sand this part after it's off the printer, is that going to be good enough for what I'm doing? If I'm at an early stage, let's say in the design or the modeling, do I just leave that part alone and not have it cleaned up for now until it's all approved, and then I go back and make it nice, or make it totally real.
I don't know about you, but when I think about AI and what its capabilities are just right now in its current state, I'm actually kind of excited about it because for me, like I said, the hardest part or the biggest hurdle for me is going from that idea to like a concept on paper. And AI is like so good at that. I'm fully able to describe what I'm imagining. I just can't draw it for some reason. So if I can sit there and type it out in an art generator and get like 50 free concepts to go from, then I can take that and 3D model the living bejesus out of it, and I've got my prop, right? And I'm great with modifying artwork that's already there and stuff like that. So like I'm just wondering, for somebody who already has the talent for concept art, is AI something that you're excited about, or is it kind of in your way, or what?
Um, no, I'm not excited for it. Um, I think it sucks. Um, and not and not in a sense, that I'm like it's taking my job, because again, I do always think of my dad, and I think AI is here. I think it's kind of silly that people are even trying to curtail it. It's here. It's going to be a thing. So, but I I don't like it from being a fan of artwork and of artists, and of like, I love art books. When you get the art of the making of books, and you have the beautiful paintings, from Ralph McQuarrie from Star Wars, or and all those other ones. Um, like, I'm a fan of that. I think that is cool. I think that's the coolest part of art, or of movies, is that somebody. did it with their brain. It's just kind of disappointing. I'm like I because that seems like it's just gonna slowly go away, and it kind of has. I see it. There's definitely clients that send us AI stuff, and it's quick and it's easy, and sometimes it looks amazing. Sometimes it looks not so good. Um, and I do. That is also the most fun and enjoyable part of all this for me is to kind of come up with the concept or the design, what it looks like, to go through that process. Um, I enjoy that, and the AI is so good. Like, so does it get you to a spot? Sure, it gets you to a spot, but um, yeah, I just feel like I'm gonna miss knowing that that is from a person. Like I look at Ralph McQuarrie's work, and I'm like, that's incredible. That is incredible that he came up with these things. It's so amazing. Um, but then if I see an AI thing, I'm like, well, nobody really made that. I think fine art will always have a place because I think people want to buy work from an artist, and that's kind of the whole reason for buying fine art is that you're buying it from a person. They say you're buying the artist more than you are actually the art itself. So I think that's a cool thing.
Yeah, it's one of those things like you said. I don't think handmade stuff or man made stuff is ever going to go out of style. Like there's all kinds of machines that can make just about anything, but it's always special when it's like this is a handmade mug from Japan or something like that. Whenever it's handmade or man-made or somebody thought of it and it's an original thing, or somebody put their fingerprints on it, it's always way more special. But what I think is cool about AI is, for somebody like me that is just absolutely incapable of the concept stage,
Hmm.
that's not going to hold me back, and I don't have to save up $5,000 to hire a concept artist to get a concept so that I can make my project, so
Hmm.
I can take my ideas and still have that concept art to work off of to make my ideas turn into a physical thing. And I think it's cool that somebody like me can cross that bridge now on my own, uh, with the help of literally just a machine, you know.
Sure.
So I don't know. I guess the way I'm seeing it, it's like it does for somebody like me the same that a 3D printer would have done for somebody that just didn't have all the materials and capabilities. You know, they can 3D model something and print it now instead of you know
Hmm.
going out and scoring all these lines and gluing little bits together and or learning how to sculpt or something. Um, it's kind of neat that the barrier of entry is lower for a lot of people. But you're right. Like I hope I never see like Marvel movie costumes designed by AI. Like that would be a sad day.
It's just a little bit of a bummer that it's not created entirely by hand. But again, that's you know, yeah. Where do you draw the line between a tool, right? Is Photoshop a tool, or is it more? Is a 3D printer a tool, or is that more? You can't really. It's hard to say. You can't really draw a line. I think. I thought an artist's job, or kind of what we do, would always be. Uh, you couldn't be able to do that with technology, but here we are. You would always think that if there was an AI thing, it'd be just totally terrible and it'd look like Photoshop little things sprinkled about here and there. But that's not the case at all. It's like legit, really good. Um,
I wonder if it's going to almost numb everybody to the cool shit that people can come up with their own brains. Like you remember when CG creatures and CG effects first kind of came out in movies? Everybody was like, it's not as cool because it's CG, like everybody liked the practical thing, which is understandable. But it's like, what they didn't get was the CG stuff wasn't just like click a button and then you got a monster. It was a lot of work too, especially back then. It was way more work than it is now. But I wonder now if people are coming up with cool shit without AI, are we now numb to it to where somebody will see it and be like, they probably used AI?
Yeah, yeah,
Is it going to ruin it for the people who actually have the talent?
I think so. I think you kind of have to show your work now. Like in school, they always used to be, oh, you got to show your work. You can't just come up with the math problem at the end. You got to show your work. I think that showing their work is going to be the most interesting part for people. It might be more than the final product. I think you kind of see that a bit now. Some of a lot of stuff that's online is process videos of people making things, and that's might be the most interesting part, even more so than the final product. Um, so it's something I think about a lot. Again, bringing it back to going from traditional to digital, now digital to AI. It's just, yeah, something that I mean, again, I've grown up. It's all I've ever done is art, and to watch it change is is just means a lot to me. It's something I think about a lot, and
Well, for guys like us, especially, growing up watching movie magic and all these behind the scenes shows, and then DVDs came out, and we're like, oh, bonus features, like for guys like us, yeah, definitely, I think the process is way more interesting, and I hope you're right about that. Like, I really do.
we'll see.
You've worked on some really cool projects, from Bane's Mask on Batman to Interstellar to a bunch of Marvel movies, and you've done a lot of work for jewelry and fashion, and all this other stuff too that nobody really thinks about when you think about prop making, but store displays and things like that. But is there anything that you wish you could do that you haven't done yet? Do you have like a dream project out there that you hope lands on your desk someday?
I've done a couple things now from like my favorite franchises. I've done a couple things for Star Wars and for Aliens, and a couple other things, and for the Marvel movies, and it's all been awesome. If you asked me a few years ago, maybe I would have said something from one of them my favorite franchises as a kid, like Predator or something like that. But I really like I'd like to work on something that's the next big thing, and and I, I'd like to, yeah, if again, as much as I can, start it from start to finish. If I could design all the way up to completion, um, that'd be kind of my favorite sort of thing. Um, Again, I enjoy the costumes and the especially helmets, but I do really like creatures a lot too, and I haven't really done much in the way of creatures for film, and so yeah, that's probably a little bit too why I do my crazy Halloween stuff is to learn more on that. I do it and can do it, but I haven't really done much of it in uh, professionally or for a movie of that sort of thing. So if there's a cool creature for a new franchise that's practical, that'd kind of be something I'd be super into.
If there were any like classic creature or classic monster that you could revise and bring back to life for a movie, what would it be?
I mean, that's pretty easy for me. I think it'd be the Creature from the Black Lagoon, which I think uh, I think they're doing. I think they're doing. So yeah, so I did. I kind of did that for one of our Halloweens a couple years ago. My son was the creature, and so I kind of did my alternate take on him. And I believe James Wan is doing it. I could be mistaken though, but I think there's one coming. Like they're remaking everything of everything. So I hope that one is cool. But that's one that they haven't tried to remake in a little while. And so I'm excited for that one. Yeah, Creatures always been my favorite.
Well, are you able to say anything that you're working on right now before we wrap up?
A lot of it is top secret. We're doing some stuff for kind of the Disney parks. Um, And so, yeah, can't say a ton about that sort of stuff. A lot of the movie stuff has, unfortunately, it's a lot of it's gone kind of overseas, and so that's kind of a whole big thing with all the strikes here in LA and all the different things, streaming, blah blah blah, everything else, everything in California. I guess a lot of the movie stuff is gone to shoot other places. So we've been doing some park stuff. Again, a little bit of everything. And then we did a little something for the Superman movie that's coming out this summer. So I'm excited for that.
Well, man, I think it's super rare to find somebody like you that, from a young age, just you know knows what they want to do, and they become one of the best in the world at it, and they just they're making a great living just doing the thing that they love to do. And I see so many people switching tracks or happening into something by accident, and maybe they end up loving it or whatever. But it's like most people just kind of get ping ponged around until they land into a career that they're a good fit for, and then they just kind of stick it out. Um, so I'm wondering, like, do just as a closer, do you have any advice for somebody who wants to get into props? Like, they're a young version of you, and they want to be a prop guy or a costume designer or creature designer when they grow up. Like, what's the way in?
Yeah, well, thank you. Um, I've always done what I love. I mean, I think that's the only way to do it. And I'm been yeah, very grateful to have been able to do it. Yeah, anybody who wants to get into it, I'd say just start making stuff, and really try and do the best quality work that you possibly can. Quality, and if you could do something different, artistically, if you could do something a little different and make it really good craftsmanship. If you enjoy doing this stuff, make something, yeah, unique, I guess, instead of not necessarily just copying other things that are out there, copying certain designs that are out there. If you can design as well, if you can design, make it of good quality, and make it unique, and then put it out there. Um, Make something cool, get some good pictures or good video, and send it to people that would hire for that particular thing. There's kind of different areas of extra expertise. There's costuming, there's prop making, and people that can hire you, and send it to them. That's what I did when I was younger. I would just make something, make a little packet of. I mean, now you got your websites and easy portfolios, but I would just send them, and I would not hear back from them, or sometimes I would, and I met Rick Baker just doing that, just sending my stuff out, and some other some other people. That's kind of just how I got to be able to do it. Is just get yourself out there, which is hard sometimes for artists. Yeah, that's about it. I would think. Yeah, and have fun doing it. Don't beat yourself up over it. Yeah.
I'd like to see you take that advice.
Yeah, you're right. I should tell myself that, or maybe beat yourself up for it. You might it might make your stuff a little better, I guess. If yeah, if you beat yourself up over it.
Oh man. Definitely beat yourself up over it, guys. That's what Shane does. It was really great having you on. And but before I let you go, can I show you what my son has been working on?
No, I'd love to. I'd love to see it.
He sat down with a pile of clay when we started this interview, and he just finished what he was sculpting. He's a chip off the old block. So this is a character, first of all, that he found. This is his reference. I've taught him to always look at reference when you're sculpting or drawing.
Oh,
It's
there
a
we go.
little
Nice. That's great, dude. What is it? What is that made out of?
It's like a character from like a show I watch.
Oh yeah, but what is the material?
I got him a bunch of different colored Sculpey
Yeah,
for
Sculpey.
Christmas.
That's great. Nice, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can relate because you know how cool it is making something with your son.
Yeah, he's got one of his masks here. Yeah, that's his creepy mask he made.
Oh man, that's so cool.
We've been doing it. Yeah, same. It's fun. It's great. I try and like you have my studio in here and have it. I try to have it cleaned out when I can, but we all get in here and learn and make some things and have fun. That's kind of yeah one of my best memories as a kid is in the backyard making masks with my mom and dad, and that's great. That's fun, man.
Well,
You
I
too.
can't wait to see the next Halloween costume on Instagram. I'm sure you're already starting on it.
my yeah my son wants to do now. He wants to do outdoor decorations. We haven't really done that too much, so he's all about that. So I'll be doing that too. And
Oh, cool.
we haven't figured out the costume yet. Trying not to think about it yet, but we'll figure out something and we'll show it off.